The life of a samurai in the Rim is one of warfare, danger, and bloodshed. The samurai that established this village had done so fleeing a greater danger, but now they had established themselves as a strong and powerful village, and strong and powerful samurai. And they were no strangers to bloodshed. Even now, they were clearing up after a more recent and obviously another failure of a raid from their enemies. Their enemies lying dead in the sand. With the recent death of Thorfinn, morale was low, people were in dire straits. Even when their turtle was found, that they named Little Thorfinn, still, things were not at their best. The prisoners that they had were dying of infection, food shortages were imminent. It was not a great time in the village. Perhaps they'd gotten some hubris from their growing success, and that arrogance was not coming back to bite them. Or maybe just Rimworld was a dangerous place. Chances are, Rimworld's just a dangerous place, and there's never enough time for any goodness in the world. There was always some new danger, some new threat just looming, waiting to take on these new colonists, these samurai. The Rim had proven itself to be dangerous, but they had also proven themselves to be able to meet all the challenges that had been thrown at them. And that can only mean one thing: Rimworld was setting them up for a great fall. But for now, things were going well in the village. Even though fortunes were low due to the death of Thorfinn, they still had their health. They still had protected the village. It had never been breached, or at least breached for long. And all of their losses had been to malaria, not to outsiders. So, overall, it had been good. Sure, Thorfinn did not die necessarily a samurai's death, but he had died doing his service to the people of the village. And in that way, they were thankful for him and for his sacrifice. And really, if you think about it, things are going pretty well. The wolves were being trained by Tommy. Rice and other plants are being picked and grown. Fish was being pulled up. Really, everything was pretty self-sufficient. If they didn't have all the constant raids, they'd be probably pretty good. But this is Rimworld, and raids are a fact of life here, especially on Cassandra. And so it was late at night, or perhaps early in the morning. Slayers came in and dropped pods, screaming down to the earth to raid our group. Some of them were out doing work, some had been doing things just trying to live their lives, and this was really just my first drop pod raid I had to deal with in a long time, and it was not great. Tommy, due to the malaria, had developed a beautiful trait called Heavy Sleeper, which means I could not wake them up, which really hurt because now one of our top fighters, who also had powerful psychic abilities, could not be used in this very critical combat. I tried to get people out, and I think I made a critical error here where I made someone run back to the camp without taking into consideration where the enemy was. And as you can see, we had one of them already inside the camp due to the drop pod dropping them right inside. And yeah, right up there, boom. I didn't see that Tycho would run right into them, and that was not good. Tycho didn't stand a chance. They're both heavily armored, and they took her down very quickly. So here, we're trying to take down this one guy, and Gray jumps in there, gets one down. We go ahead and try to move up to get this other two up here inside of our walls. Plus, we want to make sure you rescue Tycho in time. It was not good. This was probably not the best situation. But these samurai were not one to quit. They lived for battle. So they ranged themselves and prepared to breach the inner walls or outer walls. Thankfully we had different sets of walls, so we could prepare and at least try to get to them. still, it was going to be a very dangerous endeavor. These Slayers are well geared, they had heavy armor, and they had powerful modern weapons. They fanned out, ran outside, started trying to get them. The Slayers charged in, some using cover. And even though we had modern weapons like rifles and stuff, their armor was able to shake off a lot of the damage. And also the Slayer was totally distracted by a wolf. He was a jerk, as you can see. This was John Wick. This would be a revenge film because he's about to slay that dog. And I am so sorry for anyone that makes him sad. He tried to save it, but it was that guy was just like, no. I'm looking for John Wick. I want to kill some dogs. So, yeah, that happened. Gray had to be the brave one to go in there and try to stop this guy, but holy crap, this dude was freaking decked. It was not good. I brought up Resin Crow just in case because I want to use Resin Crow to kind of grab anyone that had fallen and swing in there. Gray put up valiant effort. And we continued to shoot at him, but this dude was just so heavily armored, he was not going down. Not at all. And eventually, Gray will fall here. But Gray now without putting up a good fight. But holy crap, they are heavily armored. It's looking like, if anything, we'll probably have to have Resin Crow go out and rescue Gray before we can get the Tycho. But that means that's assuming we can still get him down. And so the rest of the group just has to fall back, use their ranged weapons as best they can. But he's not going down easily. They're encased in heavy armor, they're extremely tough, and these Slayers are here for blood. This is at a point where I realized we probably should have updated some of the weapons, but the weapons have served us pretty well up to this point, so. At this point, we're just going to kite, run and gun, try to keep them not near us. And the sad thing is that if we had Tommy, this would be over by now, because Tommy would have just psychic shocked one, especially that big guy right there, taking him down. We could have focused on him, we could have saved Tycho by now, and been on with our lives. It was a misplay on my part. I probably could have kept Tycho up too, but I didn't realize where they were, or I could have had her take a different route. And Tycho's actually another good fighter that would have been very useful for this part. But, it is what it is. You gotta do what you gotta do. Thankfully, we still had some of our good fighters here, so we did what we could. We did what we could. And we bring down one, the other one was already down. So, essentially at this point, I think the Raiders were already starting to run away because we had already dropped most of them. Everyone's pretty hurt at this point. But this is where one of the quirks of having the samurai ideology, especially for Bushido, starts to kick in. If a pawn is downed in combat with another humanoid pawn, I believe I don't know if it's just melee or range, but either way, if they're downed, they get like a huge penalty. It's like -30 to their mood because they've been defeated in combat. If they've been defeated twice, it's like -60. And the problem is that they're basically going to be in just terrible moods now because they've been defeated, which is going to end up being very catastrophic for the team further down the road. We rush to get the people into medical care because, yeah, they're bleeding out. We're trying to just get everyone tended to, clear out the base. It was a mess. It was not good. It was not good at all. But we did survive the raid, even though we had people like all over the place trying to defeat us. We had to go up and strip them and take care of them before they stood back up if they got back. But for right now, the main focus was tending to our people first. because they did a number on our people. They did a number on us. It was not good. Not good at all. But at least we won. It was a Pyrrhic victory, but a victory nonetheless. A victory that I learned from and that I'll definitely do better for in the future. There are some quirks with Rimworld combat, and I didn't really take that into consideration, and there was just a lot going on. I didn't really pay attention. And they got people hurt needlessly or put in bad positions that they could have probably been better off without. But, we won. And that was good enough for me for right now. But we're going to have some serious consequences from this. First off, moods are just going to be in the toilet. Moods are going to be so bad. Tycho and Gray just, it's not good. It's not good at all. Not good at all. Gray goes on a jailbreaker spree, so she's going to break you out of jail. We've got Blight coming in. Blight, so we have to cut down pretty much half our rice crop to make sure that we survive, because I don't want it to spread to the other plants. It was not good. Not good at all. Thankfully, Ray was there. A lot of villagers were able to survive pretty well. So, I mean, only a few, but those few were some of our top best fighters, and they've been around a long time. That's some of our best gear, and so it did not help. Did not help at all. It was just bad. And then, of course, with the bad moods, Tycho decides she's going to return to Monkey and go run wild. That wasn't good either. So we had to throw her in jail, which was not great. Not great at all. It was basically, it was just a cascade of bad moods on bad moods on bad moods. And the village was not in a good place here emotionally. Everyone was pretty much in a bad mood. Except Tommy. Tommy seems pretty good. Tommy slept through the whole battle and woke up and was like, hey, what's going on, guys? And everyone's like, yeah, there was a fight. You didn't wake up. And she was very sad about that. But it is what it is. So we have to now get a new person to take over Tycho's role. We decided to get, I think at this point we have Gray. Oh, not Gray, but Marshall do it. Sorry, Gray. Not Gray, but Marshall. Gray is not in a good place either. Gray and Tycho are just not having a good time. And, yeah. It was not great. But hey, at least we had a pretty good role change. We're going to go out and hunt a bunch of food. Try to turn things around. I believe in Marshall. I think Marshall will do okay. I mean, they can't do any worse than anyone else. I mean, so. But Gray, on the other hand, Gray just was not going to get any better. Gray had been trying to break people out of jail. We had to throw Gray into jail. Gray kept trying to go berserk rages, and eventually we figured the best thing for Gray was to return Gray to Amaterasu. And so we decided to have an honorable sacrifice with Gray, one of our starting samurai. It was with a heavy heart that Marshall marched her into that room and did what they had to do. Drew out her wakizashi, prayed to the gods, chanted, and ultimately took the life of Gray. But if Gray had any second thoughts on that, they can know that it was a good sacrifice. Everyone was very pleased and very happy about it. I do know that for sure. So, there you go. Hooray! Gray, you died! But if it makes you feel any better, it was a beautiful sacrifice. But we were not done with the executions. We had one more to go. And this one was bittersweet as well. It would be for Tycho. Tycho had been a good member. Although not an original, she had been a good member. But Taiko had run wild. She was basically just a wild woman at this point. Being downed had broken her, and then while she was in prison, she'd been down many more times, to the point that she would never recover. Her mood was so bad. So, and she couldn't even do the honor. She couldn't even have like a seppuku because she was running wild. So, this was like a misery. This was like a moment where we gave her what she needed, and so we put her out of her misery. Yeah. It was for her own good. So, good night. And at that point, I think this is where we'll leave our samurai for now. They've come a long way. It was a good run, and I really enjoyed how things have turned out. But I'm gonna let them be. They've proven that they can survive out here, and I'm ready to go on to a new adventure. So see ya.